I think it's 4,950 books. He told his architect, Julia Morgan, do not cover the artistic or architectural beauty of the light bulbs. So she didn't. Hearst has made that mental transfer that light is an architectural element, and when used, it can completely change the mood you're trying to set. Whether it's the Empire State Building, or the Tower Bridge, or the Golden Gate Bridge, or San Simeon Main Library, the light would have a change on it. Mr. Hearst so lit Broadway in New York. They had electronic bulletin boards, huge things, massive things, that every 20 minutes to half an hour, they would change the news on them. And you could read the news walking down Broadway on these great electric billboards, or bulletin boards, whatever you want to call them. And that was in the 1890s. And they started calling Broadway the Great White Way, because Hearst was using so much electricity to light those boards, in other words. And then he's the first person ever to use neon light in the theater district in New York City. So small things that kind of make you wonder about him. I mean, I think it's more important that he liked baseball and vanilla ice cream than he led the Democratic Party in this country for half a century. That might be impressive to somebody, but Hearst is a political animal. You know that about him already. I mean, whatever you don't know about Mr. Hearst, you know he's a political animal, is what it comes down to. And he will help you. He will make you governor of Illinois. He will make you president of the United States of America. But there will come a day when he will ask something of you, and he won't understand if you say no. You took his offer, and everything has a price. As Winston Churchill once said of him in September 1929, William Randolph Hearst is a grave and serious child, playing with the most costly of toys. He said, he is a man absolutely without fear, and had he been a military man, he would have been another Wellington. That means nothing coming from me. It means a great deal coming from Winston Churchill. And Churchill concluded his little observation by saying, he dwells alone in that great edifice, looking out over the endless sea, and many upon this earth think him to be the devil himself. I think I go to lunch with the devil. I would. I mean, I'm not worried about that kind of stuff. Wouldn't it be an interesting lunch? What would you talk about? Your soul? Maybe that would be the topic of the day. Hearst is an art collector. When he would sign your guest book, he would write cattleman under occupation. But of the 17 presidents he lived through, 6 of them got the job because of his political power. And most historians agree with that. Those who don't say it was 7. So you can choose 6 or 7, and either way you're going to be right. Youngest piece of pottery in the room is 2,300 years ago. Now, the older pieces are closer to 2,900, 3,000 years. But he's still showing off with light bulbs.
How long did they live in the house?
It's only a summer vacation home.
Okay. But how many years did that span?
Mr. Hearst first came to the ranch in 1865, and he was last here in 1948. Died in 1951. This wasn't even his biggest home in California. Just the one he liked best. Well, see, I find current politics to be horribly amusing to me in a sad, deathly way. You've got people out there in the streets yelling death to the 1%. Don't they understand there are people beyond the 1%? Yeah, someone like this would qualify. His father is the man who discovered and developed the largest single deposits of copper, gold, and silver ever found to date in the history of California. He is referred to from the moment of his birth to the moment of his death by hundreds of biographers as the most famous private citizen in the United States of America. When he's addressed as the uncrowned king of America, he always stops that kind of talk. He doesn't like that. And the man who called him that, who gave that term, his name was William Stead. He was a British-born, American naturalized citizen who was in newspapers. And he would actually die in the Titanic, as a matter of fact. William Stead would. But Mr. Hearst never liked that title. When he was told he could be a duke or a count, he would always laugh and say, I have no desire to be called the Count de Bunco or the Duke de Lousy. He was asked once, what would you like to be addressed as? He said, "I was born with the only title that warms my heart. I am Citizen Hearst." Hearst is not stupid. He knows that he can't be one of the people. He can't be. It's impossible. But he can be for the people. And that puts the living fear of God into men like John D. Rockefeller and Flagler and that crowd. Because when Hearst goes to war, he goes to war with the poor and the middle class behind him. And the rich don't stand a chance. And they know it. As a matter of fact, if Hearst got into a situation that he thought the American people ought to be involved in, you would receive a telegram from him. Every magazine subscriber, every newspaper subscriber, everyone who ever bought a Hearst product through the Good Housekeeping Institute, something he set up to make sure products work, every single person who bought a product from Hearst would get a telegram saying, "They're at it again in Washington. It's time to march on the Capitol." He's an anarchist in some ways. He once said in a public speech in Spanish Harlem, "You're as good as any Englishman ever fell off the boat. Now let's go get them." Oh yeah, they don't like him in Newport, Rhode Island. They think he's a scary guy. Maybe he was. I love this room though.
Yes.
Always have.
Beautiful.
I shouldn't love things that are inanimate, but I do. They're just so pretty. So unique. Remember, he's a newspaper man. He knows how to lay out spatial understanding, spatial relationship. So why would it be hard for him to build the house? It wouldn't be. His architect, Morgan, said she was allowed to supply technical knowledge to the building, but the desires and the designs were exclusively his. And had he chosen to have been an architect, he would have been wonderful.